We'll go ahead and get started. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Chamber's last joint webinar of an 8-part series with DeVry University. We've had such a wonderful experience with this partnership and have gained such invaluable information on career development and professional growth. Thank you, Laura, again. For those of you who do not know me, my name is Natalie Layton, and I have the pleasure of serving as the Chamber's Vice President of Membership. We have an excellent webinar today discussing project management skills for everyone. So with that, let's get on with some brief housekeeping before I introduce our presenter. Please note that this webinar is being recorded and will be distributed to our participants, membership, and made available on our YouTube page as well. Please feel free to use the Q&A feature, which can be found at the bottom icon bar of your screen, and our presenter, Laura Knapp, will be able to answer questions as they're asked. We'd also like to encourage everyone to participate in the chat box as well. And you can use the raise hand feature, which is also on the bottom of your screen if you would like to talk. And if you want to know more about membership in the Chamber, just send me a quick note in the chat box and I'll be able to follow up with you. And lastly, I want to encourage everyone to stick around through the entire webinar because we have a really exciting announcement to make at the end. Now with that, I have the pleasure of introducing today's presenter, Laura Knapp. Laura is the Center Dean at DeVry University and its Keller Graduate School of Management in Long Beach, joining the school at the end of 2016. Laura is a Southern California native and longtime Long Beach resident, having lived in the Bixby Knolls and California Heights neighborhoods in Long Beach over the past 20 years. She earned her Bachelor's of Arts at Cal State Long Beach and MBA at USC's Marshall School. She's a member of the Long Beach Rotary, the LB Chamber, Toastmasters, and is the current chair of the South Coast Higher Education Council. She's passionate about education, which helps equip graduates to make a difference in fast-growing sectors of the economy. So thank you so much, Laura, for joining us for our last webinar today and for all the webinars, frankly. And I'm going to hand it over to you.
Oh my gosh, thank you so much, Natalie. Thank you for that introduction and all the kind words. Once again, thank you to the Chamber for co-hosting this webinar series with me. It's been really enjoyable. Today is the last one, and I've had just a really great time talking about professional development, about kind of career development, and that's part of what I do as the Center Dean is to get out in the community and talk about these things, just raising awareness, right? I think, you know, life is about constant learning, right? So I love to be able to provide subject matter that helps us in that learning process throughout our professional lives and personal lives. So thank you, audience, for joining us today. I'm going to be talking about project management skills that everyone can use at work or even in personal life. Before I get started, I did want to see by a show of hands, or feel free to chat it in the chat box, or you can raise your hand. How many today on this webinar are professional project managers? Right? How many of you are PMP certified or project managing as your full-time role at work? Anyone here in that role? Okay, I don't see anyone raising their hand just yet, or in the chat box. And that's good. That's actually an okay thing. If you are a project manager, I would say stay on. This will be a good review or maybe a different way to look at project management, hopefully a nice brush up. Also, you know, this is really meant for people who are not necessarily project managers, but, you know, from time to time find themselves being part of a key project or even leading a project. Okay, so this is for you. And welcome. We're going to be talking a lot about, you know, what makes project management successful. And we're going to go over a particular methodology that we actually have for taking a look at projects. Let me go ahead and advance my screen. Okay. So first, with a definition, what is project management? According to the Project Management Institute, it's like the global association of all project managers. It's the process of successfully navigating a project from start to finish. Pretty simple, right? Successfully managing a project from start to finish. What is a project? By definition, a project is something that is not part of your daily routine. It's even if it's on a monthly or quarterly basis that it really doesn't qualify as being a project. A project is maybe more of an annual item, or maybe something that's a one-off. Maybe it's an event, a charity event, something large, but it tends not to be part of our daily process at work, if that makes sense. Okay, so definition of project management. I'm going to talk about, once again, the value of good project management. Okay, we're going to go over a 5-step or 5 phases of any project, including the planning and execution processes relevant for each phase. And I think this 5-step or 5-phase methodology is just something good to know. It allows you to recognize where you are in a certain project and add value accordingly. Okay. The value of good project management is huge. Without project management, it's said that a team can be like a ship without a rudder, moving. There's activity, of course, but without direction, control, or purpose. So even if you're not a full-time project manager, there are certain skill sets and approaches that can be learned and employed. I'm going to take a break. I'm going to take a minute. I'd like to ask everybody in the audience, what projects, or can you give me an example of maybe any projects that you have worked on in the past or that are coming up that you will be working on, right? That you have been a part of or you will be a part of coming up in your professional role, maybe even in, personal life, a large vacation that you're planning. I think we're all in vacation planning mode right now, aren't we? With COVID. Okay, event planning. Yes, definitely, right? At the chamber, Natalie and Amanda, definitely lots of events that you all are putting on. I would definitely, and even though that is more of your routine, what you do, each one of those events is a project. A virtual walk, absolutely. A fundraising virtual walk. That's a big thing. That's a big project. Especially now the walks are all, it's new. Anything that's being replicated on Zoom or virtually, whatever platform you're using, there's a totally different nuance to it, right? And so that is a big project in and of itself, especially if it's the first annual virtual, fill in the blank. So absolutely, a lot of annual charity or company event planning, birthdays, retirement parties, these all qualify as projects. So let's keep these projects in mind as we move along. Okay, and let me get this out of the way first. Why do some projects fail, right? Why are some projects not coming to fruition in a very positive way, right? Why do some projects fail? Hopefully we've never been a part of something that wasn't quite, as successful as we wanted it to be, but chances are, right, that's part of life too. And project failure, it's a thing, it happens, it is what it is. Anybody have any examples? I don't know. Yes. Yeah. Why do projects fail? Lack of communication. Absolutely. Communication gaps. Expectations were not relayed very well. Communication is everything. It's everything from just communicating, the core goal and purpose of the project to communicating details around it, to communicating what people's roles are, right? If that communication is not necessarily there, it's almost like a setup for failure, unfortunately. It can be hard. There's lots of reasons, actually, lots of reasons. So yes, unclear goals and objectives, lack of clarity, lack of resource planning. Oh my gosh, I didn't know our subject matter expert was going to be on sabbatical or was going to be taking a leave of absence or they were going to be on vacation or what have you, or they left the, we were going to depend. We were depending on that person or that team. Oh my gosh, I didn't know that team is booked on another project. Now we have to delay or we have to make do, right? Lack of project visibility. Sometimes projects just don't get enough visibility, and so they don't get the attention that they deserve to move forward with any momentum, and maybe some other team across the company comes up with a project that's very similar to what this group is doing. So lack of visibility, among the executives or stakeholders. Communication gaps for sure. Scope creep. This happens a lot of times when, requirements keep getting added and added and added throughout the length of the project, right? These requirements weren't captured, I guess, adequately up front, or things just change. That can extend a project on and on. Also, unrealistic expectations, right? The stakeholders, the people who are all bought into this, they were expecting a Tesla. That's what they thought we were delivering them. But the budget was for, a Honda or something, not a Tesla. Okay. So the budget does not, match, or the expectations, let's just say, are different. Okay. Many, many examples. Yeah. And feel free to share in chat any challenges that you have seen, in your own, in your own experiences. Okay. So statistics show that for many organizations, failed projects can be expensive, taking a heavy toll across the board. And it's a lack of clear goals that's the most common factor behind failure. Okay. Lack of clear goals. So, could more effective project management skills improve these stats at all? What do you think? Right? More effective project management skills absolutely come into play. And again, according to the Project Management Institute, with good project management in place, and again, whether you're an official PMP certified project manager or not, you will see, if there's good project management taking place, you're going to see a time and money savings for your organization. Okay, less cost overruns, more efficiency with time, use of time. You're going to actually see improved communications across the board because this project team is, getting that communication piece down and in a way that extends across the board into all of the departments that team touches. Better business decisions, absolutely, because the communication is there, the structure is in place to make those really good and well-planned business decisions. And also iterative successes, because what? Success breeds more success. If you have a great project, you rolled out a new website, a new intranet site, and or the virtual walk, right? It's a wonderful project. You get to build on that. Okay, so by iterative success, I mean one good project can be the base or the foundation of so many other positive projects, and successful projects going forward, as opposed to, you having to fix, kind of fix the outcome, of a project that failed. Okay, so iterative success. Okay. Some of the most important qualities and skills of project manager in general, and again, this is PMI, mostly this is, PMI based research. So according to the Project Management Institute, what are the, I guess, attributes of a good project manager in terms of their approach, their personality, the way they approach their work? A couple of things. Strong people skills, you may guess. Okay, the ability to develop trust and communication among all the project stakeholders, keeping everyone up to date and on the same page. Again, that communication. Have to be good communicators, but they have to be building, trust, right? We want to know about problems before they happen. So we want to have this environment, where, people come first, and, it feels like there's an open door. If issues are coming up or cropping up, there's a good back and forth, in terms of communication. They must be comfortable with change and complexity. Okay. Areas of gray, chaos should not phase a good project manager at all. You need to be ready, willing, and able to improvise, and you need to be expecting the unexpected because it will happen. Okay, so that comfort with change and complexity is sort of a key attribute. If you're maybe not that person, this would be, again, something to learn, something to get used to. You should be able to easily shift from the big picture to small but very crucial details. Okay, so you're that unique person. And again, I think this is learnable. You can see the big picture, right? The overall purpose. You also can shift to the nitty-gritty details, the minutia, as needed. And you know exactly when to concentrate on each, kind of on each area, right? You have a good sense of timing, let's just say. Okay, all, I think, attributes that can be learned. That said, according to project management consultant Jennifer Bridges, the primary role, right, she writes about this, of a project manager is to bring clarity, focus, and closure to projects. Okay, so maybe or maybe you don't have the skills that I just, discussed. However, right, you need to bring to any project that you're leading, or I guess working on, right, part of a team leading, clarity, focus, and closure. Remember these three words. I think these are like the power words, when you're on a project: clarity, focus, and closure. One, ambiguity can be a project killer. Confusion can slow things down. People are confused. And the thing is, sometimes people don't want to admit that they're confused. They don't want to bring it up. They don't want to admit it. So how can you tell if you have a problem with ambiguity? Any ideas? Right? Maybe if the project is going more slowly than you thought it should be going. You can also listen for comments. If you pick up any of these comments like, oh my gosh, I thought, or we did it this way last time. I'm not sure. I don't know. Right? You can kind of sense it in the language coming back, from your team. So these are symptoms of not having a clear understanding of what's expected. And again, the biggest project killer is a lack of clear goals or expectations. So we want to nip this in the bud. If you're the project lead, you definitely need to get everybody on the same page and clear up any lack of information. If you're on a team and you're confused, right? It really is incumbent on us to bring that up and to say, I'm confused. I don't get it. I'm unclear on XYZ. Okay, because ambiguity, again, can kill the project, unfortunately, or slow it down significantly. Focus. Your function on the team or as a leader is to get this project done, right? You have to have this virtual walk done. So regardless of the chaos, the jostling, changing priorities all around you, the different things that each day brings, right? Focus is really key. We have a date, we have a goal, this has to get done. So really, really crystal clear focus through all of that chaos, that you're going through all that complexity, you remain focused. And the ability to close. So one of the first questions that needs to be asked when a project starts is what needs to be done to close this project out successfully? Every single decision should be made with the end in mind, with this question in mind. Okay, of course, the sooner a project is done, right, the sooner its value can be realized. Okay, that's where the ROI comes in. Once that project is done, you can release people to other projects, or if it's a fundraising campaign, the sooner you get those, donations in, so on and so forth. So closure. Okay, moving right along, and hopefully that gives us a sense of, what does it take to really be up to the task of leading or being a core person, in a project, leading a project. Next, I'm going to talk about the 5 processes of project management, okay, that we have come up with. And it's called SCORE. It's a very easily memorable sort of thing that you can just, I think, commit to memory. You probably don't even have to jot it down, but if you want to, go ahead, jot this down, keep it handy. It's ingenious. SCORE stands for start, right? The beginning of a project, what needs to be done in the beginning. Coordinate, what you need to do before, you launch the execution of any project. Operate is when you're executing on the project. And then record and report. I would say it's not a project unless you are recording and reporting successes or challenges. And then the end, how do you know you're at the end, right? Several activities, necessary activities, fall under each of these SCORE phases. There's one activity that is necessary throughout each of these phases. Can anyone guess? Can anyone guess what is number one, important thing to do, no matter where you are? You want to make sure that the communication is flowing, okay, at all phases of SCORE, all phases of your project. I want to kind of think of an example. We're going to walk through SCORE right now. We're going to go through those activities that are necessary to kind of get to the next step and finally get to project completion. And so if you want to think or imagine a project that you're currently working on, right, the virtual walk, or if you want to think of maybe a website development project, we can think of this sort of made up project that's coming up. We want to build a website for a new company or a new business division or a new nonprofit, what have you, or maybe we need to revamp, our old website because it's just a bit dusty. Okay. Has anybody ever worked on a website project? Anybody ever build a website or an intranet or a SharePoint site? Okay, okay, good, Natalie. Wonderful. You can weigh in. You can definitely weigh in. So let's say, yes, okay, one of the nonprofits I'm involved in, let's say we want to just revamp. We have a website, it's a little bit dusty, it's been there a while, it really needs to, improve in terms of, what it's communicating so it can be more relevant, right, to 2021. So what do we do at the beginning of any project? We start with a very customer-centric focus. First and foremost, we have to ask questions. Ask questions of who? Really, it's the stakeholders. First, we have to know, who are our stakeholders? Who are the end users, right? Who's the audience for the website? Is it me? Not necessarily. Who is that audience, okay, that we're going after? And then who are the stakeholders, right? Who's holding the budget, I guess? you know, Anybody else connected? Are there any vendors? Who are the stakeholders? So S really stands for a couple of things. I would like to say that S not just stands for start, but it stands for stakeholders and also scope. Okay, so we necessarily want to start with a big picture in mind, asking questions. What's needed? What's required to close this project out? Again, we want to start with the end in mind. What does success look like? We'll want to identify all those stakeholders, clients and users, sponsors, those with a budget, all who would be impacted by this project. And again, communication is key to define and identify these expectations, these requirements, and to start to build that roadmap on how to proceed. Okay, so I would say we start with a lot of questions. Okay, necessarily we want to suss out all the information that we need. Again, surprises, lack of clarity, shifting goals, shifting objectives. Somebody was thinking it was going to be a Tesla and it's not. We really want to nip all of that in the bud. How? By asking a ton of questions in the beginning on what the requirements are, right? Very basic. And I know we all know how to do a Google survey and maybe a Survey Monkey, something like that. Actually, the challenge is sometimes we don't know exactly what to ask. Why? Because we don't know what we don't know. And that's why professional project managers actually, do get a lot of training in how to, get project requirements, out of people. And they use a lot of things, they study things like the Delphi technique. I don't know if you're familiar with any of these, affinity diagrams, the nominal group technique. All of these are just very formalized ways of getting at ideas and then kind of categorizing those ideas and making sure that nothing is missed. Okay, again, we want to get this all out in the beginning. I think all of us, though, whether we're trained project managers or not, are familiar with brainstorming. We all remember brainstorming sessions. Get everybody into a room or a virtual room and just, there's no bad idea. Let's brainstorm this out, jot down everything, and then maybe we categorize from there. But it's like a spontaneous contribution of ideas from all the members of the various groups. Interviews are generally a bit more formal than brainstorming. We have a set of questions. We're interviewing our stakeholders. Focus groups, you're probably familiar with this too. We get, it's a form of qualitative research. These are generally small, diverse groups who have guided or open discussions. So we bring these people together, again, probably via Zoom nowadays, or maybe in person, and we just either guide discussion or we have an open kind of brainstorm with them. Facilitated workshops are, maybe if there's a lot of, different departments, possibly if the project is going to be a little bit challenging, maybe because of, I don't want to say politics, but, maybe if we have a lot of different groups to round up, you may want to consider bringing in a neutral third party or hiring a consultant to facilitate a workshop. These are intensive structured meetings led by an impartial session leader or facilitator. Okay. Bottom line, I would say to you, my group today, is take this questioning, part or phase of the start very seriously. Don't leave anything out. Okay. Because it'll come back. I promise you. If there was a requirement that was missed, it'll probably come back, to haunt you later on. And then it's just a decision. Do we have budget? Do we add it in? Anyway, it's just more work. So take that questioning phase very, very seriously. I said S also stands for scope. The scope is what is needed at the beginning of any project. It's essentially what your project delivers. It's the reason you're executing the project for your customer or stakeholder. Okay, you'll want to be very practical about stakeholder needs and wants, right? Can they be aligned to a realistic timeline. Also, when and for how long will resources be available? People, facilities, equipment, and so on. Be realistic about scheduling meetings, right? Are we scheduling meetings right around the holidays? Keep that in mind. Are people going to be on vacation as you're creating your milestones and your checkpoints, and organizing your resources? You're just going to want to be cognizant, of what's going on around us in the environment. Okay. So after identifying our stakeholders and asking all of those questions, right, we should be able to clearly identify the goals and purpose of the website in a measurable, quantifiable way, and with a time frame, a big overarching time frame in place. We have our scope. Sounds good? Is there anything else, I guess, we need to add or think about as we develop scope? Okay. And feel free to chat anything. I'm going to move on to C of SCORE, the C of SCORE. What happens at C? Okay, so we've done our questioning. We know exactly who our stakeholders are. We have our scope. Now is the time to coordinate and, well, continue to communicate, right, the objectives of this project and actually create and come up with a project plan. It's very important to be thorough. The better prepared you are, the more likely your project will proceed to final approval and be successfully completed. In a way, just, and I know we know this, but, good planning is everything. A good beginning can predict the outcome. So it is important to not rush through this project planning phase, okay? Your plan elements can include the project objectives, what we can accomplish, what success looks like, kind of reiterating the scope, and really a blueprint from beginning to end with all of the tasks that will be needing to take place. Okay, what is a website? How do we, what colors do we want to use? When are we going to decide the look and feel, right? When are we going to do the content? When are we going to get that written by whom, right? What are the visuals going to look like? All of that needs to be laid out, right? With associated timeframes. What's the budget? A successful project should come in on budget. So what is that budget that we're working with? Right? And, what are the costs? Let's be realistic. How much does it, cost to pay a copywriter, or a web developer if we're contracting out for any of this work, right? Who are going to be the key players? What are their roles and tasks? It's important to define who will perform what. Will IT be involved? Okay. What departments? How will sales and marketing be involved in this project? And our timeline should include very achievable milestones, including how long each major activity, should take. Also, what tools are we going to use to accomplish or to stay on track, in terms of like platform or software? I know there's project management software out there, right, that companies use, they subscribe to, Microsoft Project, right? Any other tools that people are using out there? There's free software applications too for project management, like Trello. Trello is one. I'm trying to think. Monday.com. I'm not sure if anybody's heard of Monday. Basecamp is another one that is free that you can use to kind of just keep people on the same page. Oh my gosh, what else? Slack, is that? Yeah, okay, this is a new one. Asana. Yeah, very good, very good. There are so many applications out there. And sometimes it's just a matter of maybe leveraging Microsoft Teams. You can share files, so you can have dynamic files, or maybe it's in SharePoint that you share files and you have roles and responsibilities and you have a copy of the actual project plan, in a spreadsheet. So it can be very simple. It could be very complex, whatever software you decide to use. And of course, no software package really is an end all be all, I think, unless any of you have found one. I haven't, but it is important to decide, okay, what are we going to use and how are we going to use, this platform to stay in shape, right? To stay in communication and to make sure everything's organized. Okay. You'll also want to know, right, critical success factors. What is super important to success and what's not? You will want to address in during this coordinate phase what your plan is going to be for any conflict. What will be your go-to strategy, right? Challenges come up. How will you manage conflict or challenges coming up? How will you manage quality? Let's say you hire a vendor and they're sending you code that just is not working, what have you. What are the quality standards that you have in place? Are they in place? Okay, so think about that. Think also about change management. So, and I know I said in the beginning, we want to ask all those questions, get the whole, project plan in place. Yet, of course, you know, no project goes without having like a project change. We do need to add this, or we didn't realize, XYZ impacted that. So change order, what is your process for change management? Okay, then how will the work get done literally? Okay, so we have our team, we're assembling the people, we know who's important to be on this team, but how will the work get done? We recommend, and it's very simple, very basic, and I'm sure you're doing this already, but having a dynamic to-do list. Not with every single thing, that can be overwhelming, but what are the near-term items or medium-term items that need to be accomplished? Sort this by due date or sort by priority. Have this dynamic list with you wherever you go, right? Referenceable, and go over it with the team on a weekly basis. I think weekly is probably just enough, right? Hopefully not, it's Goldilocks, not too much, not too little. Of course, depending on the size of the project, but a weekly review, even if it's 15 minutes or maybe it is an hour, depending again on the project, allows you to check in. You want to block out time on your own schedule and probably on the schedule of, your teammates to make sure, this is something you can do on Outlook and I'm sure just really any email package that has a calendar, right? I guess Google, Yahoo, anything, you can calendar time or block time on your own calendar to get things done, right? With those due dates. And you can also put those due dates on your teammates' calendars as well. Okay, so that keeps everybody kind of literally on the same page. Make sure you do have a plan B, in case any schedule delays do occur. Okay, so what happens if, deadlines are missed? What is that plan B? Just be ready to think about that. As you're assembling a team, I should have mentioned earlier, you'll really want to put together the best team possible. And by this, I just mean the right people in the right roles. Does that make sense? I would say take a look. First and foremost, decide what skills, experience, and knowledge are needed to perform each subset of the project, and then review each team member's availability, qualifications, and then determine responsibilities. I think there is an art to assigning people to tasks that they're going to be successful. And why not, take this added step with your project? Laura is very good with detail, whatever. She knows how to put together a project plan. We'll have her, putting together the project plan. So-and-so is very good at web design. Let's see what he can come up with, right? We want to definitely customize the roles to the people and their backgrounds and their qualifications. And then we're going to assign those tasks, clearly explain expectations, and develop out that structure for achieving the tasks. Okay. I like to think of coordinate, that second step in SCORE, as project plan, people, processes, and platforms. What else? What else goes into this coordination phase? Anything else? It doesn't have to start with a P. Just in shorthand, that's the way I think about it. We're putting together the project plan, definitely assigning out, figuring out who's going to be on the team, what are the processes that we're going to use, including the platforms that we're going to use to get this work done, right? So that's C. That's your coordination. Now, operate. Okay, now, finally, we begin the actual project work according to our plan. We begin to work our plan. This is where the execution happens. We're ready. Okay, I mentioned communication as being key throughout. Your most important responsibility here is to, make sure that communication is happening with the various teams and stakeholders as work gets underway. Okay, this is where all of that preparation comes into play. It's going to make it easier to communicate and get everybody on the same page and check in to ensure everybody's clear on their roles and that they understand deadlines. You want to start to monitor and control the process, including the budget, with those weekly meetings, right? Definitely keep up with those weekly meetings. Try not to skip them. By doing so, you'll know if your project is going according to plan or not. And if you have to start with more frequent meetings, again, depending on the project, so be it. All right, so everything's going great, right? That said, can anyone think of the last time you made a plan and everything went perfectly according to plan? The plan that you laid out. right? Probably not. And again, it is what it is. So again, it's important to consider, how you address hiccups. And we talked about in that C, coordination phase, you want to really think about this ahead of time. What are we going to do as challenges arise? What are we going to do, with change orders? How will we treat those? What's an example of some challenges? Have you guys, had experienced some challenges on a key project in the past? Maybe team members, we didn't realize they didn't have as much experience as we thought they had. Okay. Maybe their approach is completely different from what we thought. Okay. Maybe we're leveraging new technology and the training is quite complex and it's taking longer than we thought. We're going to need more time, for training. Okay. Any other challenges that people have experienced? Maybe you have one team member who's just not providing deliverables the date that he promises or she promises. Yeah, missing deadlines. Exactly. They get overloaded with other projects, which we all do, but then it's like, well, I was expecting that deliverable on Monday and now it's Wednesday or now it's Friday. What do we do? Okay. So, I would say again, this goes back to communication. Open communication is key throughout the project. This can help keep both challenges and conflicts at a minimum and help ensure a successful project. So that back and forth communication, oh my gosh, I know, I realize you're overwhelmed with other projects. I'm going to assign, somebody else to help you accomplish this task, right? Okay, this deliverable, because it is key. And it's a showstopper if we don't get it by, XYZ date. So that open communication and understanding what's going on and addressing it in the moment and not letting it fester too long, very, very key. Okay. All right. Really, that's, that kind of sums up the execution phase, which is the O, operate, throughout. And I don't know, the word operate, I think of a surgeon too. I think of a surgeon operating, on somebody to make them better. And that surgeon is keeping an eye, right? That surgeon is keeping an eye on the monitors, on any risk, right? On all those vital signs. Okay, so, we're multitasking in a way. We're doing the operation, we're doing the execution. We're also keeping an eye what could go wrong and getting ahead of any of those issues. So that's execution. We're getting close. The fourth step of SCORE is report. Okay. Report and record. I like to say, again, I think I mentioned this, it's not a real project, I guess, if there's not a system to track performance, report issues or challenges, answer questions, and confirm that your project, is on track and is being completed, successfully. And I know, we have this tendency, right? Especially in the business world. It's like, oh my gosh, as soon as something's done, we're off to the next race. As soon as that event happens, we're off. I would say it behooves us to come together even briefly and make sure we have all the data related to that project. Okay. If it's with a website, you know what I mean? We have a copy, we have an archive going with all the code. I have a list of all the change orders and the responses to those change orders, any challenges that came up. I have, I know what the budget was and exactly were we over, were we under, kind of how that landed. So we want, if it's an event at the chamber, do we have a list of everybody who attended? What are the things that we need to have handy? What were the results of that event? So we can kind of take a look. What was the ROI? So you're going to want to assemble data on the results, the successes, the expenses, right? Any issues, corrections, and changes to the plan and to the budget, right? You're going to want to be able to communicate any departure from your plan, as well as record the corrective measures that were put into place. Basically, what worked, what didn't work, right? Back in the day, we used to do, what worked, what did not work, okay? So this is a very, very important, piece of SCORE. You need to document how the project went. This will also help you with future projects. If you have an archive that you can access, you have another event, You go to that archive, you have a lot of that information at your fingertips. So a project checklist, and I'm going to be wrapping up in just a moment here because we're getting to the end, right, of our score. Okay, we want to have a project checklist in place, which is basically an audit or evaluation of the entire project. Okay, project results and any evaluation we did with the stakeholders. Did we meet with the stakeholders? Did we demo the website? What was their reaction? Let's document that. Financial closeout. We want to close out project finance. Okay, making sure we have recorded all related financial transactions. All the accounts are there, all the assets, and then we're also releasing assets, including people, right? If we're done with a project, we want to make sure that we're signaling to the team that, okay, this project is wrapping up, and we want to have that project archive stored in a place that is, easy to get to, whether again, SharePoint, MS Teams, whatever you use. We want to have a nice, neat archive that anybody. So if I leave, if I were to leave my company or any one of us leaves, somebody could go in and get access to that project archive. Okay, any project testing or final testing is done here before you declare your project complete, especially with a website, right? You want to make sure all the testing is done, and that's part of your checklist. Projects can end a number of different ways. They can end early. That's a good thing. Usually you're under budget. You wrapped it up sooner than you thought you would, or maybe some requirements were sort of, how shall I say, they were taken off in terms of the requirements. Okay, so some requirements were postponed, or people decided we actually don't really need that. Let's go ahead and wrap up the project now. Okay, so your project can end early. That's probably going to be a good thing. It could be endless, no end in sight, right? Because of project creep. Typically at this point, you really have to think, are you succumbing to the sunk cost fallacy? Like, are we just continuing on because we've already spent so much money on this project, right? What will be the ROI? And we have to be a bit harsh, and cold with ourselves. Do we keep going? Do we keep investing money in this? Or is it time to stop and maybe call it a day? Maybe pick it up later. Okay, failed, right? Sometimes it's better that a project does fail, right? Because again, maybe it's endless and it just we need to tie it up and address it at another time, okay, for whatever reason, as opposed to just continuing to invest in it. Or it's complete, right? The good news is that many projects are completed exactly as promised, even better. So I'm going to consider the launch of my new website as one of those successful projects completed according to plan. I'm getting acceptance from my stakeholders, right? They see that it absolutely aligns with what they thought that they were gonna, what they were expecting, okay, with what the expectations were. Congratulations, that's it. We've just gone through SCORE. Okay, START. I like to think of START as that purpose. Coordinate is your project plan, your people and processes. Operate is the execution of your project based on your statement of work and your project plan. The record and reporting piece, don't forget about that. And then tying up all those loose ends with your report, right? And with your archive, releasing assets. And why not? Let's have a party to celebrate our website, our new website kickoff. Okay. A project is complete when it starts working for you rather than you working for it. Okay. That is a definition of a completed project. And so I wanted to wish everyone the very best in all of the projects that they are currently managing or hoping to manage or are a part of currently. I'm going to pass it back at this point to Natalie and see if there are any questions for us.
Thank you so much, Laura. If there are any questions, please feel free to put them in the chat box. This was a wonderful presentation, Laura. A good way to wrap up our 8-part series. Thank you so much for joining us.
Oh my gosh, thank you, Natalie. Thank you, Amanda. Any questions, I'm happy to answer, either via chat or if you want to verbally take yourself off mute, just raise your hand and let me know.
You must have been just so thorough that no one has no one has any questions.
Okay. It is a lot. It is a lot to absorb. And hopefully just the idea of SCORE, keep that, I guess, acronym in mind, as a way to simplify, understanding where you are in any project and what needs to be done at any given time, right?
Awesome. Well, it doesn't look like there are any questions coming in. So I think it's time for me to introduce our Chamber President and CEO, Jeremy Harris, to join Laura for a very exciting announcement. So I'm going to hand the reins off to you two.
Thanks, Natalie. And thank you, Laura. It's great to be here. I can't believe here we are. We're at the end of this 8-week series. You've done an unbelievable job. We've received nothing but great feedback. And thank you so much again for the continuous partnership between us here at the Chamber and then DeVry and the wonderful work you guys are doing. And I'm hoping our folks get to take advantage of this. For anybody out there that might have missed some of the other webinars that we did, you can certainly find those at our Chamber YouTube page. We're also doing a catalog for our members. So if they want to pop in and take a look, a lot of great information there. We can also send those directly to you as well. Amanda can certainly send those directly to our members and anybody on the series here. And her information should be in the chat box, or if you want to reach out to her, you can certainly do it that way. So now for the good news, and this has been a wonderful partnership for a long, long time between the Long Beach Area Chamber and DeVry. And again, kudos to you, Laura, and your team, and everything that you guys do for not just us, but really the community and the students that you bring in through your programming, and when they leave, the type of skills that they're trained up on, and currently, really reskilling, given the environment we're in, right? So we're a big believer in continuous education and continuing to get better, retrain, reskill as necessary. Again, in this new environment that we're in, it might be necessary. So we're proud to announce through the partnership with DeVry that all Chamber members will receive 25% off of admission to DeVry University and Keller Graduate School in order to advance their educational goals. And that's where we are a big believer in this. This is just another added benefit, another wonderful partnership that I'm happy to announce with one of our members, a key member here with DeVry. So with that, Laura, thank you. I think this is going to be a wonderful benefit for our members to take advantage of. I'm looking forward to more of the formal announcement, sharing it obviously with our leadership, actually at tomorrow's board meeting, and then sharing it wide and far, of course, with our membership. So I'll stop there if there's anything you want to say.
Oh my gosh, just thank you so much, Jeremy. I mean, it's been a pleasure to provide these webinar topics over the last 8 weeks, and that's definitely part of what I do. I really enjoy it, just raising awareness on soft skills, professional skills, career development. I think this year is interesting, and we've done some research. Many people, and I guess as you would expect, are thinking about reskilling, needing to reskill, maybe needing to brush up on their skills, or maybe even start a new direction. And I think that's what DeVry and Keller Graduate School have always afforded our students, right? Sort of an online or hybrid approach for people who are adult learners, right? And maybe want to get an MBA or a graduate certificate, or maybe even finish up an associate's degree or bachelor's degree if they haven't yet. I think this is the year for education, and bringing down that cost will hopefully remove some of those barriers. Another benefit is the first class is free. So the first 3-unit course that one would take at DeVry or Keller, this is with all of the programs, is completely at no cost, and there's never an application fee or anything like that. You can even just send us your transcripts and we'll evaluate them and say, this is, this program might look good for you or not, and it's up to you to decide and take it from there. And so I would invite you to email me. The cool thing is this is extendable to not just yourselves as chamber members, right? You as individuals, also to your own staffs at your own organization. So if if you say I'm good, but I do have staff that may be interested in this, I would be more than happy to speak with you. But yeah, thank you so much, Jeremy, and the chamber for allowing us to put this in place. I think it's going to have a nice impact.
Absolutely. And that's a great key point too. You know, our chamber members are usually organizationals, companies, and both private and nonprofits. So please extend this out to your staff and your team members. This is all part of the package, and then also, of course, the goal and continuing education. And again, we're big believers in that. So Laura, thank you to you and your team. Fantastic job over the course of the last 8 weeks. We look forward to continuing to promote and put this out there. And then I look forward to more announcements and promoting this wonderful benefit. I think with that, Natalie, I think it's back over to you to take us home.
And that I will. That concludes our webinar for the day. So thank you so much, and so excited about this partnership, or growing partnership, I should say, Laura. Thank you again for taking time out of your past 2 months of your life for these wonderful webinars. They've been so informative and so helpful. So thank you.
Oh my gosh. Thank you so much. Have a wonderful day.
Take care, guys.